thank you for that lovely introduction. Some of you might remember me from last year where I talked about Unreal and Python, and since then I've jumped back into Unity, and something that I haven't touched on in a bit, like coming back to Unity, it was like, oh hey, this await async task-based stuff is pretty neat. My first influence of it was in this turn-based strategy hobby project that I was working on, and this is our entire game loop. You might notice that at the top there we've got an async function. You can just like wait for things inside that function. It generates a task, or a unitask in this case, a Unity-based task, a library that I totally recommend for anybody wanting to delve into this stuff. And you can just await things to happen, which is fantastic. This player turn here can take seconds if it's an AI, it can take minutes if it's a player, and if it's an online player, it can take weeks because they forgot they were playing the game with me. So that's a little dive into what await async can do. Now, the other part that I've been working on is I got a job at Panda Arcade working on this game called Hissy Fit. I've been there for about a year now, and they've got a really interesting system around this async await stuff. And it comes from Timbo Jimbo, folks on the other side of the office. We're very much stealing their homework. But it's basically using async await to make a state tree. And the way that this works is we've got two parts. We've got transitions and processes. So transitions are used to feed data into processes, and they're also used to identify which process we need to run. And a process itself is just like an asynchronous function which takes a transition in and returns the transition of where we're going to go next. So how this looks in game, this is down here what a transition looks like. This is a level hub transition. It's a type of main menu transition, and this is the data that we want to feed into the process. This lets us identify which process we want to run. I'm going to jump over here and use my laser pointer because this is really helpful. So we've got game process, which is always running, and if we feed a level hub transition into that process, it's going to say, hey, this is a type of menu process. We want to spin up a menu process. And then that menu process knows how to deal with any type of menu process. And it says, hey, I know that the level hub process needs to run on the level hub. Level hub transition can run on a level hub process. So let's generate one of those. And then this laser pointer is slowly dying. Everything is falling apart, but that's okay. We're on day 2 of PAX, and we've got day 3 tomorrow. That's okay. So once we get into the level hub process, we can do some really interesting things, because now we're in an async function which can just await stuff. So you can be like, hey, I want some UI, and I'm going to await for the person to finish inputting data into that. Like, finish interacting with it. Can I go to the next slide? Am I in control of that anymore? Fantastic. How this looks in practice, and some like nice little notes of cool stuff that you can do once your process flow of your menus are in these awaitable functions. You can just like spin up a loading screen as a disposable, and then run your process for starting up. So like that's all of the server stuff that verifies you're a user, you're good, you're logged in. And then once it drops off the bottom of that, your loading screen just disappears, which is great. You've also got here, this is how this kind of like finding which process to run next would work. So in this case, like imagine that level hub transition that we were discussing. It's like, hey, this level hub transition is a type of menu transition, so we're going to do that process. And if we go to the next slide, I'm going to jump straight down to the level hub process itself. We've got some really cool things going on. The level hub process needs to know about stuff that is directly childed to that transition. So the level detail transition is a type of level hub transition. But when it comes to then running menu elements, you can just create a menu element as a disposable. And since it's an awaitable disposable, it can have like a transition animation in. It can wait for the user to do the input thing. And then once it drops off the end, it just exits out. But in this case, we can also do networked calls. So we can just wait for a network call, and you see that that's inside of a load overlay. And when that networked call finishes, we just drop out of it. And then at the very end of our process, we just return which transition we're going to go to next, and that will bubble up to the correct place in the tree, which is really handy. So that out process, say it was a play process, so the player has said, hey, I want to play this level. That play process is now going to bubble up to the level transition, then it's a level process, and the level process doesn't know how to deal with the play process. So then it bubbles up to the menu doesn't know how to deal with it, so it bubbles up to the game, and the game says, hey, we need to actually load up the level now, let's go. If we go to the next slide, things I've really enjoyed about this kind of state machine is that it's really flexible in how the player, like how we wait for the player's interaction and the kind of networking that we're doing. It also works really well with disposables, as said. Some things to keep in mind, though. Pay attention to cancellation tokens and exception handling if you're playing around with these awaitable async stuff. And some good libraries to look into is Unitask and the awaitables, which are now built into Unity. I have some really frustrating bugs with this, but hopefully they're better in 6. Yeah, that's my talk. Thank you.